The Fist of Guthix, the Eye of Saradomin, the Stone of Jas. Depending on its past possessors, the artifact would go through many names in its storied history, which predates even the First Age. The origins of the stone are not very well known, nor has its past been well documented, so join me as we try to piece together the story of Gielinor's greatest and most devastating artifact. We have to start all the way back in the First Age. Guthix had just arrived on Gielinor and was amazed by its beauty. Using a special tool, he was able to carve open portals to other realms where he could convince certain species to take refuge in the world of Gielinor. One of the first species he brought over were the elves, along with the goddess of light, Sarin. Through unknown means, Guthix would eventually come into contact with the Stone of Jas. Using the stone, he would help out a newly established race called humans. The stone was capable of creating the world's first rune stones that the humans could utilize to produce magic, an ability that previously was not possible for them. Millennias pass on, and after a good amount of species got settled, Guthix decided to stop interacting with them. You see, Guthix had no desire to be worshipped as a god, and would even tell these species not to do so. But unfortunately, they started doing it anyway. So to prevent further worship, he decided to go underground and sleep for thousands upon thousands of years. Fast forward to the Second Age, the arrival of Zaros and the Great Zarosian Empire. During this time, the stone was accidentally found by a Fremennik named V. V used the power of the stone to create new magic and what we now know as runic altars. He also was the one to found the Moon Clan, whom all reside on Lunar Isle and follow V's tradition of magic and runecraft to this very day. There is little known of this specific point in the stone's timeline, but it is believed that V had the stone stolen from him. After the stone's theft, it would disappear for many years, until eventually being found by Zamorak through unknown means. With the help of the stone, Zamorak would use the Staff of Armadyl to defeat Zaros and siphon his power, ascending to godhood. This would begin the Third Age. Shortly after this, Saradomin and Armadyl would banish Zamorak and claim possession of the two artifacts. Armadyl would end up taking the staff, which is how it got its name, and Saradomin would claim the Stone of Jas. He would then proceed to hide the stone at the bottom of the ocean. It was around this time that the stone would be referred to as the Eye of Saradomin. Fast forward around 17 years, and Zamorak finds a way to return to Gielinor and is now pissed that he no longer has his powerful toys. For this reason, the God Wars would commence. The war for the artifacts would last for thousands of years. Zamorak would eventually claim the stone and entrust it to Lord Drakon. The effects of the stone being in Drakon's possession can still be seen today actually in the mines of Mauritania. Eventually, Zamorak would reclaim the stone from Drakon and place it in the land of Farinthri. However, not long after, Saradomin, Armadyl, and Bandos all had him cornered. In a last-ditch effort, Zamorak pounded upon the stone, causing a massive explosion. The blast turned the beautiful, lush, and green Farinthri into a wasteland incapable of supporting life. The planet's life force, Anima Mundi, cried out in pain as the whole world shook. The event was so destructive that it awakened Guthix, who had been asleep for more than 5,000 years. He looked upon the destruction in disbelief and plunged into a deep sadness. Seeing such a large stain on this beautiful planet was too much for him, and he wept for a land that he only wanted to share. Gielinor was now permanently scarred. Shortly after seeing this atrocity, Guthix came to the conclusion that none of these gods were fit to inhabit this world. So, he enacted the most powerful spell ever known in our history, the Edicts of Guthix. These edicts would prevent any and all gods from entering the world of Gielinor. However, if a god already resided in Gielinor, it would not automatically kick them out. So, one by one, Guthix banished each and every god. This even included his old friend Sarin, which was hard for him, as he was the one who brought her and her people to Gielinor in the first place. Sarin pleaded with Guthix to let her stay, telling him that if she were to leave the elven people, they would all quickly die. But Guthix wouldn't allow it, for even though Sarin was a peaceful and gracious goddess, her presence would still disrupt the balance of good and evil in the world. So as a final resort, she shattered herself into pieces so that her people could live on, even if it was without her full presence. When his work was done, Guthix took the Stone of Jas and hid it deep underground. After that, he himself found a resting place and went back to sleep, hopeful now that his actions would prevent any further damage being done to Gielinor. Not much else is known of the stone. In fact, it's been such a long time since the stone was last seen that many believe its presence to be a myth. But it is no myth. The stone is still here, waiting to be found. And while Guthix sleeps, the beings of Gielinor long to abuse its power and disrupt the balance once more.